Hi, everyone. Welcome. So nice to have you. We're one of the first events for the International Digital Wellness Day, and I'm super excited to have this chat with you. I see that we're kind of a smaller group, so I also invite us to have a dialogue. We can have a more intimate setting, and I'll walk you through what I want to talk about, but I'd love for it to be a conversation today. Let me know if you're having any connectivity issues or you can't hear me or anything like that. Otherwise, we'll get started. So I'm Maya from Digital Zen Labs, and our talk today is about the quiet mind and designing your digital life. So I know this is a hot topic for all of us. The quiet mind is always part of our daily dialogue. And I'm interested to hear from all of you and see how that kind of topic jumped out at you and what you feel about it. So I'm Maya. I'm the founder of Digital Zen Labs. I'm a digital well-being educator and coach. My background is originally in strategy consulting, where I focused on digital transformation and learning and development. So like many of you, I worked in intense corporate environments where I was expected to be constantly digitally connected. And I learned a lot about my own experience with digital overwhelm and also with my clients and with the companies that I worked with. In the last few years, I've spent a lot of time in the mindfulness world, working in different methodologies and learning different techniques for how we can bring more quiet into our daily life. And by quiet, I also mean more heart. So it's not just about quieting the mind necessarily, but also bringing vitality and joy and spirit into your daily life. So these are some of my modalities I'm interested in and that I've experienced with, and I'm happy to talk to any of you about it after this call as well. Big fan of Hatha Yoga, of the KonMari method, and the Alexander technique. I'm also based in Tel Aviv, and I'm originally from California. So I'd love to hear from you guys. If you want to write in the chat where you're from, it's really exciting to be able to connect with all of you. This is part of the benefit of our digital world, right? That we can hop on this call, and I don't know any of you. I don't think there's any familiar faces actually, but I can feel connected to you in a very short amount of time with this digital space. So at Digital Zen Labs, we quiet digital noise. Oh, I see some chat. Awesome. So we have Canada, Madrid, but based in Berlin, both great places. South Africa, amazing. India, Slovenia, very cool. Thanks, everyone. So exciting. So at Digital Zen Labs, we help you get digitally organized and set up smart, simple systems for a better digital life. We've been around since 2018, and we've been creating online courses for the majority of that time. We just recently launched a new website that has a new set of courses and guides, and we've helped thousands of students across 74 countries. I'm happy to talk more about that at a later time, but I really want to jump into the content today. Okay, just to do a little bit of a overall recap. This is something we're all very familiar with, but I want to kind of break down this idea of information overload before we get into how we can deal with it and into the element of how we can bring quiet into our life. So it's important to understand that information overload is the new reality. That's not really going to change. It's not in corporate culture's interest. It's not in government interest. For the most part, even though we have amazing policy organizations like the Humane Center for Technology doing its part, we still are going to have this overall issue in the landscape of modern distraction. And so what we're talking about is really two issues. One is digital overwhelm, so the actual reality of devices and pings and notifications. And that also involves anxiety around the overwhelm. So we don't just have pings and notifications, but we also have the anxiety within us about all the things that we can't keep track of and all the things that we're behind about. So that's the issue of digital overwhelm. And on the other side of that, we have productivity culture. So we have a mainstream productivity culture that's been telling us for decades now to work harder, faster, and stronger. And this has created a work culture that is dominated by stress and by anxiety and by the feeling that we're always behind. So where this meets me is that it's not just a battle against the digital avalanche. It's not just a battle against all of the digital noise, but really it ends up being kind of a battle against ourselves. So you're not only feeling like you can't keep up, but then you're also feeling, why can't I keep up? That nagging sense of guilt or anxiety or the ping of just, I am not enough. So that is like the other part of productivity culture. So these are the two things that Digital Zen Labs works on to address. One is digital overwhelm, and that's kind of like the practical part of what we do. And then the second part is really about the mindset that that can help you navigate and create your own version of productivity, and one in which you can have a quieter mind. Does anyone have any questions so far? If you're just joining, I just want to mention again that I'm happy for this to be a dialogue because we're a smaller group. So you can ping questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll also have a dedicated time at the end for more questions. Great. So when we're talking about digital overwhelm, the next part of this is, how do we handle that? How are each of us on this call, and all the people in your lives, your family and friends, how are each of you handling digital overwhelm? There's kind of this spectrum.
I need to get out of bed. I'm gonna listen to the rest of your message while I get ready, but I just wanted to say something quick about the Reiki. I got her contact information this morning, and Yardley was like, oh, she said she can fit you in, she can't do today because it's too busy, but she can fit you in tomorrow. And I was kind of like, well, like, didn't really know if I wanted to do an appointment this fast, but I feel like this is good for me because
Sorry about that. I just muted everyone. Hopefully we're good on that. Let's go back into our... Okay. So what we were just chatting about is, how are we each handling digital overwhelm? So on one end of the continuum, on the left side, you have like the traditional overwhelmed person. So these are a lot of my clients and students. These are most of my family and friends. These are definitely, it used to be me. And it's this idea that you wake up in the morning and you're with your phone, and we know the dialogue. All of you that are here really already know what digital overwhelm is, but our question is, how are we handling it? So on one side, you have people that are really overwhelmed, and on the other side, you have something kind of interesting. This photo made me laugh because it's off the grid digital minimalism. So you have people that have decided to kind of disconnect from some form of modern life, maybe don't even have email accounts, but have decided to be really digitally minimal and are very data privacy conscious. And so what I want to basically frame for you guys is, there is this continuum, and somewhere in the middle, there is a way that we can create a digital Zen mindset. And what does that mean? That is a state of technology use that is guided by awareness, by intuition, and by choice. And it's not going to
see your screen, Maya, actually. Sorry.
Oh, 1 second. Thanks for letting me know. Thanks, guys. Okay. So catching you up on my visual. So on the left side, we have digital overwhelm. On the right side, we have off-the-grid digital minimalism. And in the middle, we have this idea of a digital Zen mindset. And most of us here in this digital well-being space are going to be somewhere in this continuum. That means we're figuring out, we're navigating what does good technology use mean for us. I personally want to have email accounts. I want to have social media. I want to have Zoom calls like this. I want to be able to connect with the people I care about and the people I don't yet know in the world that I can connect with and relate to. So I need to figure out for myself, what does a digital Zen way of living look like? And that's going to be informed for each of you by a bunch of different things. By your personality, your preferences. So like, how organized are you? How organized do you want to be? How much time do you want to spend thinking about your digital life? It's also going to be informed by things like your skills and capabilities. So how easy is it for you to stay focused and attentive? Do you also deal with anxiety or depression? Do you love being on your computer or do you not? These are all different kind of factors that go into your mindset when it comes to dealing with your digital life and creating eventually a quieter kind of daily mindset. And environment is another important factor that deals with digital systems and digital clutter. So what is your day-to-day, what do your day-to-day tasks and activities actually look like on the computer and on your phone? And do you have digital clutter everywhere? Do you have tens of thousands of emails that stress you out or not? So these are the kinds of things that will inform your mindset. Any questions so far? Good question. So we have one about managing email workload. Definitely we can go into that topic a little bit more in the end. Great. So when we're thinking about this digital Zen mindset, an activity that each of us can do is to kind of do this checklist with yourself. And I would even ask, because we have a small group today, that maybe each of us take 5 or 10 minutes right now and just kind of think through these questions and understand that a true digital Zen mindset doesn't happen in one day. So a lot of us know about different techniques for digital minimalism or digital mindfulness, like turn off your notifications or have a clean email inbox or don't use your phone before bed. So these are like the common things that we're all familiar with. But what we're talking about with a quiet mind is actually something a little bit deeper. We're talking about the way you're orienting in your body, in your mind, in your life, and then orienting from that place and choosing how you interact with your technology. So it's not going to be just doing a bunch of practical things, but also actually building focus skills, actually becoming really familiar with yourself and with your different emotional states and how you're using technology and when, and also getting really in touch with designing your digital life, like how you want it to actually look like. So for example, let's just take a few minutes right now. Okay, cool. Got some more questions, so we'll answer that in a minute. Okay, Miguel's question is timely, so let me just go back for a second. Where do you suppose the average person is on that continuum? I think it's a good question. I think the average person is much closer to digital overwhelm. I'm in this, in this industry, in this space, and I know very few pure digital minimalists. Like I worked on one consulting project where I was working with data privacy programmers, and they were the most intense digital minimalists I've ever seen. Like, they bring their server everywhere they go. They're completely off the grid, no emails. So I know very few people like that. I think most people are far closer to digital overwhelm. And I can tell you that also from interacting with my students. Since we came into the space, we've definitely had a good experience selling courses and guiding people in one-on-one sessions. And there's a lot of demand, to be honest. And that's because people are digitally overwhelmed. And I always think back to when I was first handed a phone in like middle school, high school age. And ever since then, there was never a time where I was given an instruction manual on how to handle my digital life, right? So I was told, how to get a driver's license and how to apply to college and how to do well in school and work, and eventually like my financial life or my romantic life. But when it came to my digital life, I didn't really get that instruction. And I don't think many of you did either, because it didn't exist yet. So part of what we're trying to do in the industry now, I think, is develop kind of like the protocols for good digital living. And I think the average person needs it. So another question, is digital minimalism good or bad? I think that the basic tenets of this is my perspective, but any tenets of basic minimalism has a longer tradition. And you can find it across every culture, which is like less is more, simplicity and contemplation have value. Getting caught up in material life is not going to lead you to happiness. So I think those are some of the core tenets of minimalism, and I bring them also to digital minimalism. I think that it's not about good or bad, but it's about incorporating those principles that make sense for you, for your personal perspective in life, and taking what you want from those and bringing them in. And I know digital minimalists that are very happy and that are not. It's not going to be the cure all. In general, you're not going to hear me say that like there's one perfect thing for everyone. It doesn't really, I don't think it really works like that in life. And okay, great. So I invite all of you now to just take a few minutes. If you want to sit a little bit more comfortably in your chair, I'd like us all to just kind of rest for a minute or two, and then we can do this activity. So I invite you to sit in your chair or wherever you're lying down and close your eyes for a little bit. And I invite you to rest the back of your eyes. And just allow breath to fill your body. I'm inviting you to do this because we're looking at a screen. So there's some effort going on in your body right now. Even though you're just listening to me on a lecture or just watching me, some part of your nervous system is activated in this lecture. So your eyes might be strained, or you might have lost touch with the ground beneath your feet, but I'm just inviting you for a few minutes to rest and just allow the breath to carry you. And I'll do the same for 2 minutes. Okay, thanks everyone. So what we were just doing was actually touching the quality of quiet. We were reconnecting with ourselves, which allows us then to design our digital life in a more intentional and more true way for each of us. So when I sit with my clients, this is one of the first things we do is just kind of quiet things down and do a little bit of reflection and ask ourselves some questions before we get into the practical and the technical. So for the first area, now that we're coming back to an activity, you're welcome to take out a piece of paper or notes or wherever you jot things down. And the first thing we're gonna ask ourselves is about your personality and preferences. So feel free to mentally answer or to write down a few notes for yourself. So how organized are you and how organized would you like to be? You can think back to even when you were a kid. Were you always being told by your parents you're messy and you need to be more organized and you kind of never felt organized? Or are you the person on your team that everyone comes to because they know that you have the notes and the calendar and all of that together? So the question is, how organized are you? Or how organized do you consider yourself? And how organized would you like to be? Okay. The next question under personality and preferences are, what are your personal and professional priorities? This is a big question. I don't expect you to answer all of it now. I just mean check in with yourself for a minute. Like, what are the 2 or 3 most important things in your life right now? Is it doing something at work? Is it something in your relationships and with your loved ones? Is it about something with yourself, like a health goal? So just jot down 2 or 3 of your most important goals or targets, areas that are most important to you. Okay, awesome. We're going to go on to the next area now. We're going to do a little bit more reflection. The next area, actually, I'm going to give you guys a few more minutes. I have a feeling the first one took a little longer. If you're just joining, we're just doing a little bit of a design your digital life activity all together. So we're asking a few reflection questions and you're welcome to think through the answers or jot them down. And then we'll get into a little bit of a more practical part of our session. Okay. This reflection helps by letting us check in with ourselves before we just start doing technical things. So what works for one person is not necessarily going to work for everyone else. And it's helpful to know what you want before we get into the actual digital life design. Cool. Skills and capabilities. Next section. So what are your biggest challenges and obstacles when it comes to productivity? For example, is it hard for you to wake up? Do you feel sleepy? Do you have anxiety that gets in the way? Do you set really big targets but then can't achieve them? So what are the main things that you feel are a challenge to your productivity? And the next question is going to be about what are your favorite activities actually to relax? What are your favorite things to do? What are the things that bring you energy that bring you vitality, that make you feel alive, or make you feel really calm. Great. And finally, we're going to answer a last question about your digital environment. What parts of your digital life most overwhelm you? So I know that someone's already mentioned email. Obviously, that's a stress for some of us. What other areas of your digital life overwhelm you? Do you know that your backups are actually all working? Do you know where your photos are backed up to? Do you have a password manager, or are you constantly dealing with password stuff on a daily basis? Are your key documents uploaded on a secure double encrypted cloud? These are the kinds of questions that I work on with my students and with my clients. And just ask you to do a little check-in with yourself. What most stresses you out? Yes, Microsoft Team pings is a good one. I worked recently on a project with Teams where the client was using Teams, and you know, I think that we're all used to it at this point, Slack and pings and all that, but still can be stressful. Okay, great. So thanks for doing this little exercise. Hopefully you got at least one little insight about yourself from it. If you want to share anything in the chat, feel free. Is there anything that surprised you about this activity? Okay, great. Teams feels like a virus. I understand. I deeply understand. Yes. And I think this is the point of our, you know, a point of this conversation, actually. One second, I'm just moving things around. Dr. CJ Lau just made a good comment about Teams feeling like a virus. And so what we're really talking about in this entire conversation is how do we move from feeling like our digital life is annoying us, is suffocating us, and is a virus, to making it something that contributes to our life. And again, I don't believe that it's a one-day activity. I think it is a practice, just like every other part of your life is a practice. And what I'm going to cover right now are some of the practices that can help you design your digital life and introduce more quiet into your daily living. So what are some of these sample actions? Just moving around the chat and stuff. Okay, thanks for your patience, guys. I usually have a double screen, and today I only have one, so I'm navigating a little bit of technical stuff myself. So designing your digital life. What are we going to now do based on the questions you answered? So for the first area, personality and preferences, there are some example actions you can do. These are the ones that you're probably not going to like so much because they require more reflection. But now that you know a little bit about what kind of organization type you are, like I'm actually not organized anymore, and I used to be when I was a kid, or my parents told me I was a mess, but actually I'm pretty good, I'm pretty organized, and even if I'm not, I'm happy with it. Like I am what I am, and I'm good with that. It's just to kind of note where you are and note the role of digital and organization in your daily life. So this idea is to, thanks, Miguel. Miguel says he likes the reflection part of the exercise. Thank you. I think it's like, it's helpful to do this additional reflection because it's going to kind of maybe bring a little bit more awareness into your daily digital use. So that's for this first section. Personality and preferences, it's really just about getting to know yourself. We can make changes, we can change maybe parts of our personalities. That's a whole other lecture and a whole other topic, but just to get to know ourselves and kind of know where we are and where we want to go with that. Okay, next area. A little bit more practical, a little less meta. Let's talk about skills and capabilities. So example actions you can take are get really familiar with your emotional states. As you know, you're probably using technology more when you are anxious and stressed, or when you're bored or where you're avoiding something, procrastinating. We're all very familiar with that. And that's kind of like the cycle of digital distraction. So just getting familiar with your emotional states and checking in with yourself, like, hey, I'm bored, which means I probably need like more energy in my body. So maybe I should go splash some water on my face, go on a little run, whatever you want to do. Do some pranayama breathing, but probably not scroll more social media. So getting familiar with your emotional states. Another thing to do is to enjoy embodiment practices. So we talked about what are your favorite activities and ways to relax. Those are the kinds of things that are actually going to make you better equipped to handle your life, including your digital life. So if you love swimming, if you love yoga, if you love dancing, anything that is getting you more in your body, it's going to help you turn to digital distraction less. So we're really encouraging embodiment practices also as a way of knowing your own energy. There's this, I was watching a lecture by a content teacher, an educator a few weeks ago, George Cow, if you're familiar with his teachings. And he was talking about this idea of a red, yellow, green state. So just always checking in with your body and being like, hey, and your awareness and attention, like, hey, am I in a red condition right now? Am I like not feeling good? Or am I green or am I yellow? And then doing that reset with yourself to get to a more steady state. So getting to green and yellow before you do work or before you do something challenging. So embodiment practices really help with that. And another thing we talk about is strengthening your focus skills. So focus is a muscle. Learning how to focus and getting better at it is something that you can improve, and not just through medication, but also through different practices and different commitments. And that's one of the things that we cover in Digital Zen Labs. We help you actually build your core skills for common focus so that no matter what you encounter, you're actually going to be better at handling it and at going with the flow of life. We have another comment. Okay, great. About changing digital culture in your organization. Ooh, it's a whole other topic, so I'm gonna see if we have time at the end for that one. Okay, so the last area, the most practical, maybe this is the part you've been waiting for. It's about how do we actually just design our digital life and get organized at a technical level. So we're talking about being really systematic and going through the biggest pain points of your digital life first. So when I sit with a new coaching client and we begin our work together, one of the first things I ask them are, what parts of your digital life stress you out? And we go through and in that priority order, we take care of it. So if it's your document management system for yourself or for your whole team, how you manage and store documents and name them, if it's your email subscriptions, if it's your social media platforms and how you run them from your business, any of these areas that create digital noise or give you digital anxiety, that's what we want to cover first. So when it comes to designing your digital life, those are the first areas that we want to make sure we handle. So what does that mean? It means things like doing a digital declutter. On our website, we have some materials to help you with these different areas. We actually have a free organization checklist that will be available soon. And there you'll be able to do a little checklist of the kind of things I'm talking about. Also, setting up robust systems. So this is one of my favorite topics. So in this space, yes, I am a digital wellness nerd. But if there's certain things that you're doing repeatedly over and over and over again, that's what you're going to want to make sure you set up a system for. So for example, email bills. A lot of people are getting bills sent to their email and they don't really need to review them. Like they're the constant bills like utilities, not like credit card bills. And so one of the things we want to do is set up an automated flow in your email so that you're not wasting time reviewing those constant steady bills. That's just a little example. I'm not sure if someone else is speaking. 1 second. Okay. And another thing we talk about with designing your digital life is actually just bring more stillness in. So that minute before you do something is so critical and crucial. That minute before I hop on this call and do a Zoom with you guys, the minute before I answer my emails for the day, that minute before of like getting still with yourself and being clear and what you're actually trying to achieve or create, and that moment of a check-in of stillness can help you stay focused. So whenever we're fragmented in our attention or we're doing some kind of cognitive switching, like I'm switching from task to task, I'm getting phone calls, I'm getting emails, I'm getting pings on Teams, the virus, as we talked about, whenever that's happening, I'm not going to be able to commit to whatever I actually want to bring to the world or whatever I actually want to achieve or create. So we do invite all of our students to do that moment of stillness before you do anything. And to deepen any contemplative practices that you have. So if you have prayer as part of your life, yoga, meditation, anything like that, obviously that is a huge part of quieting your mind and getting to know yourself. And it's always welcome in this space. And the last thing I'll talk about is just the commitment to deep work. So having a digital Zen mindset means taking into account all of these different areas of your personality and your preferences, your skills and capabilities, your environment. But above all, it's about a commitment to yourself and a commitment to deep work, and commitment actually to deeper living. So moving beyond the vibration of pings and notifications and being reactive to other people, but actually orienting from yourself first, and knowing what deep work you want to do in this world and then bringing that outwards and having your digital life reflect that. Awesome. So this is just a little overview of the kind of reflection that you can do, and you can deepen this after the session. Also, feel free to reach out to me. I'll provide my contact information, and I am happy to speak and chat and answer any questions. But the idea is you can do a little reflection and then you can try out some of these actions. And Digital Zen Labs is one of these resources for you. We have a lot of free and paid resources, guides and courses, and I'm excited for you guys to check them out. So if you are interested in more digital Zen, you're invited to join our learning community. We just recently launched our new site. So before this, we had online courses on a bunch of different platforms, like Udemy and Fiverr Learn. And so now we're actually building our own learning community, and it's recently launched. So be a little patient with us. But we have a strong track record in this space, and we're excited to share our knowledge and our practices with you. So if you want to check us out, we're at www.digitalzenlabs.com. Okay, so I'm just gonna open for a second. I'll come back on screen and see if anyone has questions. I'm gonna unmute everyone actually. I'm happy to do a little bit of chat and discussion with you. So let's. Okay, I think you all have the option to unmute yourself. And I'll also see questions here. Thanks, Natalie. Thanks for joining. I'm also interested if anyone else is giving a lecture for this day or is another teacher in this space. I'm always interested to hear your perspective. So we'll just have a few minutes for questions and then we'll wrap up. Okay, let me see if I missed any questions.
Hi, Maya. It's Ina speaking. I sit in an environment in a unit where I'm the only structured person. The others are all chaotic and they love dwelling in their chaos. And everybody's forever looking for documents and nobody can ever find anything. We've tried our learning management system and it was chaos. And then we went into Google Drive and it was chaos. And we are now in Teams and it is still chaos because they can't create folders that make sense and then put the things that belongs in the folder in that folder. And I'm really at the point where I want to scream. So fortunately, we have Zoom meetings, or actually team meetings at the moment, so I can mute myself and then sit and scream on this side of my screen. I'm worried if I have to be in a face-to-face meeting again, I will have problems.
Yeah. So you're talking about a few different issues. Thanks for sharing. Obviously, the issue of document management is super, super common. I just actually helped a client, a startup company here in Israel, implement a new document management system using Teams and using SharePoint. So I'm deeply familiar with the problems you're talking about. What I recommend is, I'm not sure who the decision maker is in your organization, but ideally you change something from the top down when it comes to organization issues at a company. So ideally you have a new digital governance or document management protocol, you have procedures, you have a training, so you set up things according to best practices. If you want to know about actual file structures and organization and file naming, I'm happy to chat with you about that offline. But yeah, you want to be implementing things from the top down. And that's not always an option. So that's, I think, when someone like you is getting frustrated, right? Like the company doesn't want to get organized or leadership doesn't have bandwidth to handle that kind of thing. And so then it's really about you and how are you going to navigate this? And what I tell people is to do what you can with yourself first and lead by inspiration. So by getting yourself digitally organized and showing up for work in a way that is clear and where you know where files are, pretty soon everyone on your team will be asking you and wanting tips from you. And, you know, it's possible to kind of be that digital well-being consultant informally on your team. So I hope that helps answer. Ooh, Los Angeles. I'm actually from LA, so nice to see Angelino here. Great. Okay, everyone. Someone also asked me about being a strategy consultant and managing your digital wellness. So I think it's what I just talked about. It's a lot of figuring out what works for you and boundaries. Boundaries begin with ourselves, and we don't need to communicate them so much to other people. We don't have to like announce to the company that we're not answering emails at night anymore necessarily. But to know with yourself first, like how do you want your digital life to be, and designing it from there. Okay, everyone, amazing. So thank you so much for joining today and for being patient with me. And we'll just wrap up. I just want to say thank you to all of you. And this is where you can get in touch. So you can contact us by email. We're not so active on social media, but we do have some basic presence so that we can know about cool things like this. And best to reach us also at our website at digitalzenlabs.com. So thank you so much, everyone. And if you send me a private message, I'll look at that right now as well. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.